All right, well, as I said, we're getting started here on the rest of, on 29th, the 23rd chapter, aren't we? We're in the 23rd chapter?
22 through
22 and
24.
23, that's right. I just gave her the scripture slides for 29, so there it is. If I just look at that, I'll tell you what it is. So, but anyway, we're going to go ahead and start with this, and it's sort of an introduction part here to this. It says, "Listen carefully to my wisdom. Take to heart what I can teach you. You'll treasure its sweetness deep within. You'll give it bold expression in your speech. To make sure your foundation is trust in God, I'm laying it all out right now just for you. I'm giving you 30 sterling principles, tested guidelines to live by. Believe me, these are truths that work and will keep you accountable to those who sent you." And you can see the picture of Solomon there on his throne, and he just wants to share this wisdom with everybody because he got it from God as a gift from God, and he wants to give it to everybody else. And that's the thing about when we get wisdom. We can get wisdom, and we can share that wisdom with others without diminishing our supply of it. And the more we give away, the wiser we seem to get. So we're going to jump into this 30 principles that he's got right now, and see how they should direct our lives. Starting with verse 22 there, it says, "Don't walk on the poor just because they're poor, and don't use your position to crush the weak, because God will come to their defense, and the life you took, he'll take from you and give back to them." Now, have y'all seen the Muppet Christmas movie? That's what this is from here. And old Scrooge, he was mean to all his employees and always put them down, and he would make them work and wouldn't give them coal to keep the place warm and all that stuff. And that's the Scrooge that we see there on the left. And then we see him encountering the ghosts of Christmas past there. And so it's all going to come back to haunt you if you don't treat your poor people properly. Don't walk on the poor just because they're poor. He was more concerned with getting money into his firm than he was with taking care of his employees. And that's really prevalent a lot these days. Companies don't feel the responsibility to take care of their employees. Their employees are just something you can manipulate to increase or decrease your profit. But a lot of companies don't understand that if you do take care of your employees, everything's going to go so much better. Just like the guy that they sent out the memo, it says, "From now on, all vacations are canceled until morale improves." Okay. And that never seems to work out very well. So, but you have to take care of the poor, and don't tread on the poor. Don't hang out with angry people. Don't keep company with hotheads. We got a lot of that happening around different cities and town. Hotheads are hanging out with hotheads, and the results are not good. Bad temper is contagious. Don't get infected. We have to control our temper, control our actions, control the things that we do, and show the world that we are not angry people. Angry people don't really get anywhere, and you can see this. They got torches and pitchforks, and they're going after the ugly ogre and going after the Frankenstein monster. But right now, we got so many people going after monsters that they don't even understand, that aren't really monsters. To be angry is to lose control of yourself. When anger controls you, you don't have control yourself. So you have to maintain your position. You have to maintain your composure and don't get angry. And that's also shown in road rage. Road rage is a terrible thing. That people are cutting people off, and then people running into them and shooting people, and the road rage just really escalates especially at this time. There's not as many people on the road, but the road rage is a lot more prevalent right now.
And mothers are killing their children. That was on
the news this week.
Yeah, mothers are killing their
Mother
children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they just can't stand to be in the house with them.
Yeah.
You know, give
We,
them up, give them away rather than.
We just took a new CASA case this week. We took a new CASA case this week, and it's a 4-month-old baby with shaken baby syndrome.
Ah.
Because the parents they're very young, they're 20 and 21, and the baby was shaken because they're so frustrated with loss of jobs and all that kind of thing. And so it's just infecting the entire community. These kids are really suffering. And the thing is, a lot of times they don't know that they're suffering. And when you remove them, they don't like that. They want to be with mom no matter what. They think that being beat up on is normal. And so we have about a year now to try and work through this case with this shaken baby syndrome. And I don't know how well he's going to do because he had a terrible subdural hematoma on his brain. So we'll see how that works out. Don't gamble on the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, cocking your house against a lucky chance. The time will come when you have to pay up. You'll be left with nothing but the shirt on your back. And so gambling is a terrible disease. A lot of people cannot control it at all. We have an acquaintance, she gets out there and she'll go to Oklahoma and she will start spending money, just one more round here and I'll make a whole bunch. And she's ended up losing a whole bunch of money, and it's a terrible disease that has to be treated, and these people have to be taken care of and almost sometimes restrained because it's such a draw to them. Oh, I can do it just one more time here, one more round on this poker table, one more round on the blackjack, and it just all goes away. And I don't quite understand how people can not believe that these casinos are only taking your money. They don't understand it. How do you think they got these giant buildings and beautiful theaters and golf courses and everything out there? They didn't do that by selling cookies on the side of the road, okay? They did that by taking people's money and not giving it back. Maybe a little chance, somebody gets some once in a while. Oh, look at there, that slot machine just paid off, just all kinds of money coming out of it and everything. But no, you've got to watch it. You've got to be careful on the gambling because it's a terrible addicting disease. Don't stealthily move back the boundary lines staked out long ago by your ancestors. And you can see some of these maps here where the lines have been moved. What was the background on that move of that line? Was there something specific where they moved that one line there?
No, I just.
Okay. Well, it was just it was a case here where somebody
Must have had
moved the boundaries, and you got to be careful because I think I've told you about this before. Her dad bought a little bit of acreage, small plot of land with an old schoolhouse on it, and the deed said 2.5 acres more or less.
Oh.
And so he went to the courthouse and said, "What does this mean?" And the guy in the office there says, "That's easy. Just take more." But there are things that are set out. People have certain amounts of property. The property is. There are people make a living surveying this and telling you exactly where your property is. And there are people who put up a fence and it'll be a foot off of the line. You end up giving the person an extra foot or two. So you can't move those boundary lines because that will cause anxiety, that'll cause friction between the two property owners. Observe people who are good at their work. Skilled workers are always in demand and admired. They don't take a back seat to anyone. Finding people who are good at what they do is really difficult these days. But we have a lot of things on the internet now where people recommend or don't recommend certain businesses. But you can go to them and say, "What's this roofer here?" This roofer's they just showed up in a pickup truck and said they could fix my roof for $150, you know. You might want to watch that one. Watch out for that one. But it's hard to find a good car mechanic. It's hard to find a good barber. Of course, you don't worry too much about that, do you, Terry?
No.
Okay.
He lives with his.
It's hard to find a good plumber, a good electrician. And it's getting harder to find them because kids are not going into those professions.
Yeah.
And there's some, I mean, I was a shop teacher for years. And I taught people the skills of doing those kind of things. Teach these kids how to build things out of wood, and how to weld, and how to use your power equipment, power saws and stuff. I taught for all those years, and I only had one finger cut off. It wasn't mine, but there was one of the kids cut their finger off. And so, but it's dangerous. But you have to go into we have to have kids going into these trades and professions now, because there's hardly anybody to build houses anymore. There's hardly anybody to plumb a new house. You can't find people that'll work on old plumbing. If they know plumbing, all they know is the new plumbing. They can't go in and fix old plumbing in the house. And so we have to observe when people are good at things and use those people, because they have developed a long habit and a long reliable. They're in demand and they're admired. They don't take a seat to anybody. And so I love watching This Old House. You watch This Old House? I love watching This Old House. Those guys know everything. I've learned so much on that This Old House program, and some of the new techniques and stuff they got coming out. But anyway, you need to observe people who are good at what they do, and that's called watching This Old House.
Because the news is horrible.
Yeah, don't watch the news.
No, don't watch the news because you'll get sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
When you go out to dinner with an influential person, mind your manners. Don't gobble your food, don't talk with your mouth full, and don't stuff yourself. Bridle your appetite. I've gone out to dinner with more people that they just turn into this ravenous monster when they go to a restaurant and somebody else is buying. It's just like shoveling this stuff in their face, and oh yeah, I'll have 2 of those, and give me page 2 and a pot of coffee. And but you you should be restrained when you go and eat. You have to take your time. Don't gobble your food. Don't talk with your mouth full. You learn a lot about somebody when they are when you're eating with them, eating out. Henry Ford had a high-ranking person he was about to hire into his company. I don't even remember what his position was he was hiring for, but he took him out to dinner, and after dinner he told him that he didn't want to hire him. And he said the reason was that he salted his food before he tasted it. Whoa. You're working on some kind of an assumption there that food is not salted enough. So you taste it first and then you salt it. But you can learn a lot from somebody like that. I used to take people out when I was hiring people. I'd take them to lunch and things like that to observe how they acted among people and how they treated waiters, how they treated waitresses. And so you can learn a lot from that. So put your best foot forward when you're out eating with an influential person. Don't wear yourself out trying to get rich. Restrain yourself. Riches disappear in the blink of an eye. Wealth sprouts wings and flies off into the wild blue yonder. And so there it is, taking off and leaving. And look at that poor squirrel. I think that's the one that's all over our yard. Running across our roof, making Lovey crazy. And Lovey stands back in the yard barking at something running across and forth, back and forth across the roof. But don't wear yourself out trying to just earn money. Yes, you should be diligent and have a good vocation, and you should have a regular vocation that pays you, but that should not be the entire, your entire life. It's just accumulating wealth. I've known people who are like that, and everything centered around their wealth. They couldn't hardly talk to anybody because they were busy concentrating on making sure their investments were growing, and that they were getting rid of investments that weren't growing, and that they were putting money into the right places, and everything revolved around amassing wealth, and it just made them miserable. One of the most miserable people I've ever known, I think. And he probably had more money than most people I've ever known. Don't accept a meal from a tightwad. Don't expect anything special. You ever do that? You ever have somebody take out, yeah, here, try some of this. But it says he'll be as stingy with you as he is with himself. He'll say, eat, drink, but won't mean a word. His miserly serving will turn your stomach when you realize the meal's a sham. When you get tightwads that take you to dinner, when I take somebody to dinner, the first thing I do is I order first, so they know what permission they have to order. Okay? And so that's what you should observe. If you're ordering a salad, if you're the boss and you're ordering the salad, don't go order steaks. The guests should not go ordering steaks. But I usually ordered one of the bigger things so that they would have permission to get what they wanted. But it says, don't expect anything special from a tightwad. He'll be as stingy with you as he is with himself. And he's made himself miserable, and if you go with him, he'll make you miserable too. So eat and drink, but see how loving he is and how happy he is. I worked for him once, I think. Okay, don't bother talking sense to fools. They'll only poke fun at your words. Okay, they'll laugh at you, even though when you're sharing wisdom, they'll laugh and go, "Oh, you're crazy. That's crazy. That's old stuff. That's in the Bible, and that's people don't do that anymore." And they laugh at couples that decide to wait until they get married to move in together, that kind of thing. But when you give words of wisdom, don't bother talking sense to fools, because they're going to get a big kick out of it. That's all. They will not benefit from it, other than being amused. So, don't stealthily move back the boundary lines or cheat orphans out of their property, for they have a powerful advocate who will go to bat for them. You want to take care of the orphans. You shouldn't cheat the orphans. You should take care of them. And there are so many places now that you don't see orphanages anymore. They place these kids in homes and so forth. But used to be there was the Masonic homes and things like that would take care of the orphans that didn't have anybody to care for them to grow up with. But it says don't cheat orphans out of their property. Sometimes orphans were left with property, and people would try to adopt them just to get the property. And so it says don't do that, because they have a powerful advocate who will go to bat for them, and that is God. God will watch out for the orphans. God watches out for the widows and the orphans, and you don't want to be the one that messes that up and messes with that. Give yourself to disciplined instruction. Open your ears to tested knowledge. Now that dog there has got some ears. We had a dog like that once. And basset hounds are the funniest things in the world, I think. We had a swimming pool, and he would go over and drink out of the swimming pool, and his ears would float before his mouth got in the water. He just kind of float out away from him. And we had to watch him around the pool because he didn't swim. He would sink. You put him in, his feet would go like this, and he'd go straight to the bottom. So you had to watch out for him. But give yourself to disciplined instruction. Spend time learning new things. Spend time learning how to deal with yourself and with other people and with nature and with with everything around you. The more you learn, the more you're going to be tested, and your testing will happen whether you've learned or not. So it's kind of like life. You can learn a lot from life, but they give the test first. Okay, you always get the test first in life. Don't be afraid to correct your young ones. A spanking won't kill them. A good spanking, in fact, might save them from something worse than death. We've got a lot of people who were not spanked when they were children out there in these riots and so forth right now. They weren't spanked, they weren't disciplined, they were given participation trophies. Everybody gets a trophy. That's wrong. And so, but giving them a good spanking is going to save them. They save them from something worse than death. I'm an advocate for spanking children, not beating children, but spanking children, like that one right there, across your lap with the hiney there. There are people that lash out and hit a child, but you have to plan this. You have to talk about it before you do it. You got to talk about it while you're doing it, so they understand what this is for, and they understand that the discipline is going to come to them one way or another, and that there are negative consequences to bad behavior. Dear child, if you become wise, I'll be one happy parent. My heart will dance and sing to the tuneful truth you'll speak. God will be happy when we become wise. He passes out wisdom freely. If you ask for it, he will give you, because it makes him happy. His heart will dance and sing to the tuneful truth you'll speak. Because more wise people with wisdom, are going to rejoice. They're going to speak the truth. They'll speak the truth, and to hear the truth is a wonderful thing, and God loves for people to be giving out the truth. Don't for a minute envy careless rebels. There's James Dean. Okay, James Dean ended up pretty badly. Soak yourself in the fear of God. That's where your future lies. Then you won't be left with an armload of nothing. So, just soak up the fear of God. And once again, that's not terror. That's a deep, abiding respect. And when you spend your time soaking up this abiding respect and showing respect, that's when your future will be much better off. You won't be left with an armload of nothing. That's what you get when you don't fear God. Oh, listen, dear child, become wise, point your life in the right direction. Don't drink too much wine and get drunk. Don't eat too much food and get fat. Drunks and gluttons will end up on Skid Row in a stupor and dressed in rags. Now, we've seen those people. They don't have any. They don't have any possessions. If they've got any, it's in a grocery cart they're pushing all over town, and it's because they've spent too much time with the wine, with the alcohol. But that seems to be our favorite thing as Baptists, to talk about the alcohol. This includes gluttony here, and Baptists need to watch that, because when we fellowship, we partake a little bit too closely, a little too severely. So, listen, dear child, become wise and point your life in the right direction. Because eating too much is just as bad as drinking too much. Now, if I was doing this according to the quarterly, I would have done the whole lesson on that verse. It's very important, but we have to realize that alcohol can become a controlling factor in our lives. Listen with respect to the father who raised you, and when your mother grows old, don't neglect her. Buy truth. Don't sell it for love or money. Buy wisdom. Buy education. Buy insight. Invest in these things. Invest in wisdom. Invest in education. And then you'll be a happy person. You will grow as a person. You will be prosperous, and you'll be able to handle anything that comes at you. Take care of your mother. Respect your father. And there's too much of that. It's not happening today. Kids aren't respecting their parents, and they just don't. They don't have the respect for those parents that they need to have. And it says, like the picture there, it says, spend time with your parents, treat them well, because one day when you look up from your phone, they won't be there anymore. And so, spend time with your parents. Parents rejoice when their children turn out well. Wise children become proud parents. So make your father happy. Make your mother proud. Now, I have to say that our kids did turn out very well. We haven't really had any problems at all with any of our kids. They didn't have any problems in school. Their families are doing well, and they followed what we taught them through the years. One day we were driving to church and we realized that we didn't have any kids with us anymore. But we did. Then we looked at what was happening, and we said, well, they're all in their own churches, and they're serving in their own churches. They don't have to be in my church. But they have given their life to Christ. They're all saved. My grandkids are all saved. I even got to baptize some of them. And so I'm just happy the way the families have turned out, because I imparted as much wisdom as I had, as I could offer. And they picked it up. They picked up on it. They did well. They got their educations. They got jobs, and their families are doing extremely well. Our granddaughters just got their driving permits. Yeah.
So
But
pray
now
extra.
they're in quarantine because one of their work associates tested positive for COVID, so they're in for 2 weeks. The day after they got their driving permits. So anyway, dear child, I want your full attention. Please do what I show you. There's Army there. He was always shown as the tough drill instructor, and they always tell you to do what they tell you. Do what I'm telling you. I want your full attention. And there's no doubt about that when you're in the military, you know. I never had any question about who wanted my attention and who wanted me to do what they told me. And so I consequently did very well in the military, because I just said, this is the only way to make life good. And so, but Solomon here says, I want your full attention. Do what I show you. A whore is a bottomless pit. A loose woman can get you in deep trouble fast. She'll take you for all you've got. She's worse than a pack of thieves. Now, that is actually a picture of the whore of Babylon. And Eileen searched through a whole lot of pictures of the whore of Babylon. And that one has more clothes on than any of the others. So that's the only one we could put in here. But that's the most covered up you see one. But it'll get you into a pack of trouble. It's like sinking in quicksand. The loose woman could get you in deep trouble, and she doesn't care. She doesn't care anything about you. She just wants what you have. Who are the people who are always crying the blues? Who do you know who reeks of self-pity? Who keeps getting beat up for no reason at all? Whose eyes are bleary and bloodshot? It's those who spend the night with the bottle, for whom drinking is a serious business. And I think I had somebody lay sod for me like that one time.
Carrie and I can lay
Yeah.
sod.
You know, they get to the root of the matter with the sod there, but they've got their little comfort with them, and but there are people who just they're no good on their own. You can't give them time off. You can't let them go do stuff on their own.
Green side up.
What's that?
Green side up.
Yeah, green side up. Yeah, that's the best way to lay sod. Green side up. We always, when I was in aviation, we always told people keep the pointy end in front and the shiny side up. Pointy end in front and the shiny side up. So that's the words to live by in aviation. So don't judge wine by its label or its bouquet or its full-bodied flavor. Judge it rather by the hangover it leaves you with, the splitting headache, the queasy stomach. Do you really prefer seeing double, with your speech all slurred, reeling and seasick, drunk as a sailor? Is that what you really want? That's a picture of a rhinoceros taking a bath there, by the way. And they like to wallow in the mud. And that's pretty much equivalent to the people who are drinking too much wine. That's what people look like when they wake up in the morning after drinking too much wine. But those poor rhinoceroses, he's going to be miserable. So it says don't judge the wine by the label and so forth. They hit me, you'll say, but it didn't hurt. They beat on me, but I didn't feel a thing. When I'm sober enough to manage it, bring me another drink. I mean, that's not the way you want to live, because that people will beat up on you, people will try to destroy you, but they will. When you're drunk, it's easy to do because you can't defend yourself. But there are people who say, well, it's okay, it didn't hurt too bad because I was drunk so bad I didn't feel anything, so bring me another drink. That way things will be better. That's not the way you want to live your life. Moving on to 24, don't envy bad people. Don't even want to be around them. All they think about is causing a disturbance. All they talk about is making trouble. Bad people are, there's the old basket of apples there. And what they always say, one bad apple will ruin the basket or the bushel. And that's true. One bad apple will begin the rotting process in other fruit around it. So hanging around bad people, envying bad people, that's what gets a lot of these kids in trouble that go into gangs. They envy the gang member because the gang leader is in charge, and they envy him because he's doing so well. He's got all these people following him. But don't envy these bad people. Don't even want to be around them. It's better to be wise than strong. Intelligence outranks muscle any day. Strategic planning is the key to warfare. To win, you need a lot of good counsel. You need a lot of strong people, but you need leadership and leaders who can lead you in the right direction. There's David with Goliath. David used wisdom as he approached Goliath. He fought Goliath on his terms instead of Goliath's terms. As you know, that it's better to be wise than strong. He said, if I go up there and try to beat on him myself, I'm going to get killed. And so he stayed back at his distance, way far away from where Goliath could actually touch him with his sword and his spear and so forth. And he got him with his little stone. That's wisdom, to do that. Don't get up close to the ones that can do you the most damage. Wise conversation is way over the head of fools. In a serious discussion, they haven't a clue. Fools don't participate in conversations very well. Wise conversation is way over the head of fools. And there's little Calvin there. He said, doing a word problem. Point A is twice as far from point C as point B is from A. The distance from point B to point C is 5 inches. how far is point A from point C? And so he's just mad because he can't figure it out. He says, math is hard. The living dead don't need to solve word problems. He's going to be a zombie. So he's just a fool. Because he's allowed this thing to overcome him. He doesn't put thought into it. Doesn't put thought into solving these problems. Now, personally, I love solving problems like this one. I'd rather have somebody ask me, this train is going 60 miles an hour in this direction, this train's going 30 miles an hour in the other direction, this one's got how far, when will they meet? I love working those out. You just give me a page full of numbers and stuff, I'm going, this is useless, I don't know what to do with this. But I love working out these kind of problems. You have to think about it, and there's a point to it. If you don't, there's no point to it, you're not going to want to do that. The person who's always cooking up some evil soon gets a reputation as a prince of rogues. Fools incubate sin. Cynics desecrate beauty. And you can see the fool, the evil fool up there, the king of, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Great Race. That was the king of whatever it was. That he was drunk and he was just a fool. He was cooking up some kind of evil thing. He had a reputation for drinking too much and being an idiot. And so he's always cooking up something bad. This is one of my favorites here. If you fall to pieces in a crisis, there isn't much to you in the first place. There wasn't much to you in the first place. This is the one where the hunter blew his face off, blew his beak off. And you can't do this anymore because this is too violent. Now, I grew up laughing like a fool at these kind of cartoons, and I haven't killed anybody yet. I must not have been listening closely, I guess. But if you fall to pieces in a crisis, there wasn't much to you in the first place. That's why you have drills for very important things. First responders do things exactly the way they're supposed to do them. Military do things exactly, and they practice it over and over and over, so that what you do automatically, and you don't have to think about it. If you fall apart in a crisis, you're not very reliable. You're not going to be helpful to anybody there. So don't fall to pieces. Rescue the perishing. Don't hesitate to step in and help. If you say, hey, that's none of my business, will that get you off the hook? Someone is watching you closely. Someone not impressed with weak excuses. And so you have to rescue these. A lot of people, even powerful things like this, they're rescuing this jaguar there. And so I love looking at those things on the internet where some people are rescuing like a deer that's fallen through the ice or stuff like that. And but it's our job. It's our job to rescue them, and that's called evangelism when you're in the church. Okay, we have to rescue the perishing because they're dying. We sang this morning, rescue the perishing, care for the dying, because Jesus is merciful. Eat honey, dear child; it's good for you, and delicacies that melt in your mouth. Likewise, knowledge and wisdom for your soul. Get that, and your future secured. Your hope is on a solid rock. So the grocery list for the body is honey and chocolate. Those are the two basic food groups. And so, but then over here for the soul, you want wisdom and knowledge. So partake of good nourishing food for your body, partake of wisdom, education, all the way through your life, and you'll be on that solid rock. Don't interfere with good people's lives. Don't try to get the best. Don't try to get the best of them. No matter how many times you trip them up, God-loyal people don't stay down long. Soon they're up on their feet, while the wicked end up flat on their faces. You don't want to trip up good people, because they're going to get back up. If you knock them down, they will get back up, and they'll probably be mad. So don't worry about it. God-loyal people just bounce back, and they will be there to protect themselves and continue to do wise things. Whereas the wicked, they'll fall on their face and there won't be anybody there to help them up. Don't laugh when your enemy falls. Don't crow over his collapse. God might see and become very provoked and then take pity on his plight. It's like in the Lion King. The hyenas were bothering the little lion until Dad came in. Says, "You get out of here," and he started beating up on him. That's what God will do if we try to do that. If we crow about people's collapse in their calamity, we want to be there to help rather than somebody will be there to help and God will be the one to help. So don't laugh at people when they fall. Don't bother your head with braggarts or wish you could succeed like the wicked. Those people have no future at all. They're headed down a dead-end street. It's the one that, like you see the bumper sticker. My child is an honor student. And this one here says, K9 Search and Rescue. My search dog can find your honor student in the woods. So you don't bother hanging around braggarts. Fear God, dear child. Respect your leaders. Don't be defiant or mutinous. Without warning, your life can turn upside down, and who knows how or when it might happen. Now, this is called bungee jumping or mental illness. I'm not sure which that is, but we must fear God and respect our leaders, because our life could be turned upside down for not respecting our leaders. Okay, well, that's pretty much the passage for today. Does anybody have any questions or comments about these passages? I know I kind of go through them really fast, but there's a lot there, and you have to kind of keep it rolling and get it all in. Anybody else? Okay, well, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Your gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your watch care, and we thank you for the wisdom that you've set before us today. Help us to go out and be a positive influence on our community. Help us to help others as we see them in need, and help us to be there for the poor, for the children, for those who cannot help themselves. Help us to teach people about your love and your salvation. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.